So in order to do more than just fonts and actually create shapes and more complicated illustrative looks, you need to know how to use the tools in Illustrator. So this is probably a good moment for us to step aside from this logo we started and to look a little bit about what tools we have at our disposal. So we haven't even gone over this at all yet, but over on the left-hand side is where all the tools live that we can use. So we can do a lot of things. There's a lot more here than even I use. So let me just show you the ones that I use a lot. And then from there, that doesn't mean you have to only use those. It just means those are the ones that pay attention to. And then feel free to explore more because you might find something that works great in your workflow. So I'm just going to start top down. So the pen tool. This is a great tool and I use it all the time to create smooth and straight points. So the way this works is a little bit complicated, but I think, give it a few minutes here and you'll get it figured out. So I'm just going to click once. And now click somewhere else, and now it connects those points. And because I'm painting, if I look over here with a black fill but no stroke, as soon as I create another shape or another line here where it could fill that in, it'll go ahead and fill it with whatever that foreground color is. I can hit Shift X to swap my stroke and my fill color, or I can click right here on the little button to do it. Sometimes it's nice to have it filled, but most of the time I find I like to draw without the fill so I can really see what shapes I'm making. And right now I'm just clicking, and everywhere I click it adds an anchor point for straight lines. The next is I can click one place, click another place, and then drag a little bit, and you'll see I get these handles and it creates what we call a Bezier curve. So now when I let go, it's going to follow from this point to that point, but it's going to go towards that handle. So that's how you can create perfectly smooth curves and corners by clicking and then dragging with the pen tool. And if you make a mistake, you can always command click. Let's make sure I got my direct selection tool. I can click once on that shape and I can grab those handles and really refine this to make it exactly what I want. So the pen tool is a huge part of my workflow as far as when I create custom shapes. And then the other thing I can do to create balance, this is kind of jumping ahead here, but I can use that pen shape and create something on one side, Command C to copy, Command F to paste it in place. I'll hit O to get my reflect tool, and then wherever this little blue anchor point is, that's what it's going to reflect from. So if I click once here and then click and drag from the left to the right, holding down the Shift key, it creates a mirrored clone of whatever shape I did. So that's how you can create logos like this guy. You can build half of the shape and then reflect it to build the other half so it's perfectly unison. So that's a trick we'll use coming up here. The other tool I like to use a lot, obviously, is the type tool. We've gone over that, but if we look in the hidden menu, there's a few other options. We can type on a path. That's a good one. So let's use our pen tool now to create a path. Let's say we want to click and drag here, and then I'll come up a little bit and then click and then drag again, and now I get kind of this rising wave. Now if I come back over, grab my type tool and get type on path, I can click on this path and I can start typing whatever I want, and now it'll follow that path. So that's another way that you might create a logo like, let's see, where did I see that? Did I bring it over? Here we go. This logo where we've got that rising wave kind of effect. Now you can also achieve that effect another way. I'm just going to bring down a copy and I'm going to come over to Effect at the top, click on Warp, click down here on Flag, and there's a whole bunch of them here you can check out, but click on Flag and you can see that we have some different options here to create a similar effect. Granted, it's not quite the same, but you get the idea. Let's see if there's a better, oh, here we go, Rise. That's going to be more of what we want. So I'll click on the Rise, change to horizontal, maybe drag that slider up again, and there we go. Now we get a much similar effect, but you'll notice a difference though. See how it kind of skews those letters so they're still vertical, like the stem of the letter T, whereas this one, when it follows the path, it kind of, like the baseline follows the angle of that path. So you see the difference there? Just a couple different ways to work is all. So I'm going to delete those. Another tool that I use a lot is the blob brush tool. Now the paintbrush tool is a little weird. When you paint with it, you would expect that you could come back in, see how we've got this line through it. It's actually a stroke. It doesn't really paint like a paintbrush like you would expect, but recently they've added the blob brush, and if I draw with this guy, it actually creates a fill with my color. So if I look over here, it's actually a fill. If I click on my brush tool, it's a stroke. So subtle difference we'll learn more about coming up, but I usually use the blob brush if I need to paint something by hand or using my Wacom tablet and I want to, quickly flesh out, I don't know, some kind of an idea. And then anything as long as you have the same color, it'll add it to that shape. So you notice I've got my anchor points. This all looks like it's one shape if I click to change the color. Now, let's say I paint with black again over the top. It's not going to merge those two shapes. They're independent. Okay, but if I paint with a blob brush with the same color, it's going to add it to that shape. So that's another way that I work. Actually, let me bring those back. Command Z to bring those back. Now I'm going to hit Shift E to get my eraser tool. Okay, so now you can erase from things that you've done. So that's another one that I work with when I try and add a shape and remove from it. Another part of the workflow is all of these default shapes like rectangles, ovals, polygons, star tool, you get the idea. So you can create multiple shapes to create a bigger part of the shape. A better example of this might be using the oval tool. Hit the letter L and all of a sudden here maybe we're drawing clouds instead, right? So we can draw a bunch of these shapes together to create some sort of cloud form. And then I'll select all of these, and they're still individual shapes. If you wanted to merge them together, there's a few ways we can do it. The quickest way is to hit Shift M, which brings me up to my Shape Builder tool, which lets me drag over these selected images to merge them together. Or I can hold on Alt to remove some of those shapes. So now I got kind of an interesting knockout here. So Shift M, Command click to drag over all those to select everything at once. And now I'm just kind of dragging over it with that Shape Builder tool. And now all of these become one shape. So as I click on it and move it, it follows over, and you can see where I put over the other shape, it knocks out. So I'll use that tool quite a bit to create shapes. Now the reason why I'm going through these tools right now is because I realize you and I are going to have different styles we want to follow. So after this video, I want you to play with these tools a little bit, get familiar with them so that you can start creating a logo that makes sense for you. All right, so some of the others, the last couple I want to show you, we've already played a little bit with the eyedropper tool and how that works. I like this tool right here. Now if I click once, this is the pen tool, click, shift click, and then shift X because I wanted to take that fill and put it to the stroke. Now I'm going to hit, I think it's shift W, let me look right here, the width tool. That can apply to strokes. This is pretty cool because I can click anywhere on my stroke and click and drag to change the width at any point of the stroke. So the way that I would use this might be for, well, there's a few ways we could do this. Let's say you wanted to create a water drop. Well, I could click with my pen tool, shift click, hit shift W to get my width tool, come to the end here, drag that out quite a bit, and then I'm going to come to my stroke window, click down on the show options, twirl down, change my cap to a rounded cap, and now all of a sudden I'm pretty close to a raindrop, right? So there's ways that we can build shapes super quick and effectively. All right, the last one I want to show you that I work with quite a bit is the blend tool. So you can create two shapes. In this case, I'll create a square, and then actually let's create a different shape altogether, a circle with a different color. And I'm gonna click on this blend tool, and you can click on one, shift click on the other, and then click one more time, and now it'll blend between two shapes. I can hit return with that tool selected, and I can change it from a smooth color to a specified steps. Maybe instead of that many steps, let's just do 5 steps. I'll hit preview, and now from 5 steps it goes from one logo to the other, or I'm sorry, from one shape to the other. So these are just a few of the tools that I end up using the most to create my logos, so I wanted you to be aware of those. There's a few more tips and tricks we're going to learn in the next couple videos. Play with those though, get comfortable, and then in the next video I'm going to talk a little bit more about the workflow, and then we'll be ready to go here.